Hello, I'm Shane Mauss, and I am the co-host of the Mind Under Matter podcast.
Oh, hey, I'm Ramin Nazer. I'm also the co-host of the Mind Under Matter podcast. You may be asking yourself, how did these two get here and do this thing? Well, let me tell you. So, Shane is a comedian. I'm a comedian. We met doing comedy over a decade ago. Shane does a podcast called Here We Are. It's where he interviews scientists about what makes reality. I do the opposite podcast where I interview mystics and artists who have nothing to do with science, really. But it's still fun because who knows if the universe is made of science or made of mystical art.
I know.
BS. And so then we decided one day during the pandemic that we should combine forces and make a show that has both, because we used to just have phone calls that we didn't record and just go off about what we think is going on in reality, and no one ever got to hear them. But yeah, we're two good boys. We do good. People love us, and we're great. And the reason we're great is because we discuss not just one topic, but various topics. We'll break down evolution. We'll break down subselves. We'll talk about the history of Christmas, the history of Easter. Where did all this come from? And not the traditional one that you'll get anywhere else, but the one that you'll get here, which is completely unique to that. So it's really the hub of knowledge that you won't get anywhere else. Textbooks won't give it to you. Your teacher won't give it to you. Your spirit guides won't give it to you. You can only get it from the boy. So
You can only we are the only source of wisdom and knowledge in the universe. I should have introduced us like that. I forgot to. So I actually we are in some ways the opposite of the news, where we put out nothing. We usually put out nothing but evergreen content. How we usually put together shows is Ramin is a wildly popular artist on Instagram who writes a bunch of or draws a lot of like kind of motivationally like fun whimsical quips that are reflections about life and philosophical and about drive and meaning and purpose. I look at all of those, try to think of any sciencey sort of study that relates or that comes to mind from the hundreds of scientists that I've interviewed, and then I blab to Ramin about all of those
and I
studies
interrupt
that
him.
I can think of.
Yeah, we're like kind of in between, I don't know, a very scientific podcast and a very unscientific one. It's right in the middle. And if you're bored of every podcast you've ever listened to, then maybe this is the one for you for the next 2 months.
If you've listened to every other podcast already, check out ours. On our podcast, we get to set up some kind of basic ideas about a complicated subject like evolutionary biology or something, or the kind of modern model of personality research of these big five personalities. And on a normal podcast, we would maybe have time to talk about just the basics of that concept. On our show, we get to set up the basics, and then we get to expand on it and call back to it and tie it together with other ideas in future episodes and keep on building a narrative. And within that, that's also allowed us the opportunity to world build and have fun inside jokes and get our audience involved and call them
Lunatics.
honey bears and plan a festival.
So check this out. If everything's going all right, if the COVID numbers stay down and it becomes safe to travel and stuff, we have in the planning works a camp out with our mummies, our voids, our visionaries, people that listen. We're heavily screening it and stuff, and we don't want to make people uncomfortable. And I love comfort. I want to be as comfortable as possible. We've got a beautiful camp out coming out in the fall, followed by a miniature tour of that the East Coast kind of. Is that called the East Coast? No, it's like more southeast. On top of that, we have
Southeast,
a possible rumination app coming out where Shane does the opposite of meditation, which is like active rumination. And the result of it, it's kind of this reverse psychology thing where if you're trying to get rid of thoughts, you find yourself having more thoughts. But if you focus on ruminating and doing that, you see how ridiculous it is, and it has the opposite effect. You kind of laugh at how much you've been ruminating. So
Yeah.
that's a little parody app that also has a weird effect to it if you try it out for a lot of people. And we've got even more than that. What else we got?
We don't have millions of listeners, and one of the advantages of that, which of course we want more listeners, but one of the advantages of having a more intimate podcast is that we get to form a much deeper connection with our audience, and have more of a grassroots sort of thing with like the festival where people can build it together. So a lot of our listeners are fantastic artists that are coming to the festival, that are going to be live painting, that are going to be decorating the camp out space, and playing music, and it's all going to be, we're not paying people from outside to come in to provide entertainment for the camp out. It's all organically being grown, and on a message board, everyone's sharing ideas, and it's done within the community.
Yeah. And many people have a parasocial relationship with podcasts and feel like they're listening to their friends and they're in the room with their friends. And we want to actually sell them more on that and give them a little bit. So it's like, it's still parasocial, but it's like, we still know you. Like, we know at least a dozen people that listen to us as names. We know their pets' names. We know what their art looks like.
And so that's what we're really looking forward to in season 2, is taking our existing group of loyal fans and just really trying to build the universe and community building more than anything, because we've been good friends for a decade or so, and also we've worked together on various things, and we've both had our own struggles with motivation or having some idea that's exciting for a while and this seems to work, and then this other idea seems to not be working, and us sort of hashing out a lot of our conversations about work were really philosophical and quickly got to, well, what's the meaning of any of this in existence itself? And so that's what we started capturing on the show, and trying to, and along the way we picked up little inside jokes, like saying no worries and too easy, that is just that is just bringing little bits of, as we're all trying to experiment with what works for us. Ramin and I will try on a little something for a while, be like, hey, this actually got me to get a few things done for a while, and you can try it at home too. And then it works for a while, and then maybe stops working, and then we come up with another little trick.
And I was thinking that we're kind of opposites in the way that Shane gets himself into trouble by doing stuff, and I get myself into trouble by not doing stuff. Like, you'll break both your feet, you'll end up in a psych ward from too many psychedelics, you'll drive off of a overpass into a cornfield. These are all older stories. He didn't do that this afternoon. Right now, he's like a grade A model citizen, next president of the United States. But then I don't do any of that stuff, but I'll like just spend too much time in bed or something like that, and that can be its own problem. So beware of doing stuff too much, but also beware of not doing enough stuff. You got to do the perfect medium amount of things.
I don't think that I try to not go, why doesn't everyone care about this sort of stuff? But from my perspective, how could there be anything more interesting than the human mind? It's endlessly complex and fascinating, and you're in it and living with it, and why wouldn't you want to dive in there and take a peek around?
You've got an old joke about like you'd think that the brain would be more interested in learning about itself.
Yeah, why doesn't the brain want to learn more about itself? And there's interesting reasons for that too, but I think that coming along with journeying into the mind is just being honest about it, and it's not all positive. It's not all darkness and hopelessness or whatever either. It's just a lot, and it's complex and it's endless. And I think that's what we're trying to articulate more than any, whether it's motivation or mental health or anything like that. It's all a part of a bigger picture of just getting down to the bottom of as many things as we're capable to get down to the bottom of in the mind as we possibly can. And we're only ever just going to scratch the surface on a lot of it, and that's part of why my fear is unfounded of running out of things to say, because it's endless.
Yeah, we haven't even started yet in the big picture of things.
Until next interview.
Keep on salivating, honeys.
Ding.